The most dangerous woman in the capital has just walked into this room to threaten him, and he's smiling. He's smiling because she has already lost, and she doesn't know it yet. She came to accuse him of selling her daughter to Dorne, and in the act of accusing him, she has handed him the one thing he wanted. 3 men, 3 private conversations. One of them talked, and the second Cersei opens her mouth, Tyrion knows exactly which one, without asking a single question. It's the cleanest piece of tradecraft in the entire show, and almost every breakdown of it gets one thing wrong, including, I'll admit, the title of this video. Let me get the correction out of the way first, because it's the doorway into why this scene is so good. Tyrion doesn't tell 3 lies. Watch it again. He tells each man a different plan for marrying Myrcella, and one of them is real. He genuinely does intend to send her to Dorne. That's the actual policy. He carries it out. So it isn't 3 lies and a spy. It's 3 secrets, 2 of them false, and a man who wants to know which door leaks. And that difference isn't pedantry. It's the entire mechanism. Because a lie can be refused, a man can hear something implausible and decide it isn't worth passing on. But each of these 3 secrets was built specifically to be irresistible to the specific man hearing it. Here's what I'm going to show you. First, that each offer was engineered around one man's known appetite, which is what made it impossible not to report. Second, that the test had a purpose beyond catching the spy, and Tyrion gets far more out of it than a name. And third, that this scene, which looks like Tyrion's finest hour, contains the exact mistake that helps destroy him 2 seasons later. That last one is the part nobody talks about. Hold it, we'll come back to it at the end. Start with Pycelle, because he gets the version built for the man he actually is. Tyrion tells him he intends to marry Myrcella to Theon Greyjoy, to bind the Iron Islands, secure the flank, bring Balon Greyjoy's fleet into the war. Notice what's inside that. It's a grand strategic argument. It's exactly the kind of realm-level reasoning a man who has served under multiple kings would recognize instantly, and would consider himself qualified to have opinions about. Pycelle's whole self-image is that he's a fixture of the realm. He has outlasted every regime. He believes his value is his continuity, his access, his permanent seat near the center of things. And Tyrion hands him a secret that only matters if you're at the center of things. Then Varys. And this one is different in kind. Tyrion tells him he plans to marry Myrcella to Robin Arryn, to bring the Vale back into the fold and secure the Eyrie. But watch the framing he uses. He doesn't sell it as troop movements and alliances. He goes to the human material, Lysa Arryn's hatred of the Lannisters, the delicacy of the approach, the personal history in play. Because Varys doesn't trade in strategy. He trades in people, what they want, what frightens them, who they used to be. Tyrion gives him a secret shaped like a personality problem, because that is the currency Varys actually collects. And then Littlefinger, and this is where the tailoring is most obvious once you see it. Tyrion tells him the truth, Dorne, Trystane Martell. But he doesn't just tell him. He attaches a payment. He asks Littlefinger to go to Dorne and broker it personally, and he dangles Harrenhal in front of him for the trouble. That's not a secret being shared, that's a transaction being opened. Tyrion knows precisely what Littlefinger responds to. Not information, but advancement. So the offer isn't information at all. It's a bribe with a secret attached. 3 men, 3 completely different pitches, every one calibrated to the specific thing that man cannot walk past. If Tyrion had told all 3 the same story, he'd only be testing who talks. By tailoring each one, he tests something better, whether each man's own appetite is stronger than his discretion. He isn't setting a trap, he's setting 3 different traps, each baited for a different animal. And hold on to the Harrenhal offer in particular. It looks like the smallest detail in this section. It's the one that comes back at the end of the video and takes his head off. Here's what lifts this from a clever trick to genuinely good intelligence work. The test is built so that every result gives Tyrion something he wants. Case 1. Cersei comes to him about Dorne. That's Littlefinger. And he learns his master of coin feeds the Queen Regent. Case 2. She comes about the Vale. That's Varys. And his spy master is running a private line to his sister. Case 3. She comes about the Iron Islands. That's Pycelle. Case 4. And this is the one people forget. She says nothing at all. In which case Tyrion has 3 men who can keep their mouths shut, which is its own extremely valuable finding. 4 outcomes, 4 wins. There is no branch of this test where he walks away with less than he started with. That's the definition of a well-designed experiment, and it's rarer in this show than you'd think. And there's a second layer under that, which is about the offers themselves. Every one of the 3 plans is genuinely plausible. Every one is something a competent hand might actually do. Marrying into the Iron Islands, the Vale, or Dorne, all 3 are real strategic options with real logic behind them. That's essential. If any offer had been obviously fake, the leaker would have smelled the test and stayed quiet. The trap only closes because every jaw of it is made of something true. Now the second purpose, because the spy was never the only thing being tested. Look at what he actually gets out of the Cersei conversation, beyond the name. She reveals she has a source on the small council. She reveals she'll confront him directly rather than move quietly. She reveals her temper is driving her decisions. And by being wrong about Dorne, she reveals that her intelligence isn't comprehensive. She's getting one man's version, not the whole room's. Tyrion didn't just test 3 counselors, he tested Cersei. He learned the quality of her intelligence, the speed of it, and her willingness to act on it in the open. And he learned all of it by letting her believe she'd caught him. The spy was the visible target, his sister was the real one. So it's Pycelle. Tyrion has him seized and thrown in a cell. And the interesting question isn't how Tyrion caught him, it's why Pycelle was always the one who'd be caught. Look at the 3 of them as intelligence assets. Varys serves the realm, or says he does, and a man loyal to an abstraction is unpredictable but not casually indiscreet. Littlefinger serves himself, and a man serving himself hoards information rather than spending it cheaply. He'd have sold that secret to Cersei eventually, but at a price, at a moment of his choosing, for something in return. Pycelle is the only one of the 3 who gives information away for free. He isn't a player, he's a pipe. He has been carrying water from the small council to whoever wears the crown for decades, and he never negotiates a rate for it, because he doesn't think of it as something he owns. That's why Tyrion could catch him, and it's why he almost certainly suspected him going in. The test wasn't Tyrion asking who the spy was. It was Tyrion confirming what he already believed, and, more importantly, manufacturing proof he could act on. Which brings us to the best 2 seconds in the sequence, and if you blinked you missed it. In the cell, for a moment, the shuffle goes. The quavering old man voice drops away. The performance slips, and something considerably sharper is underneath. Sit with what that actually means, because the show hands it to you and then walks straight past it. The doddering is a costume. Pycelle has been wearing it for so long that the entire court has stopped seeing a man at all. They see furniture. And furniture gets to stay in the room during the conversations that matter. That's not the strategy of a fool who leaked by accident. That is a deliberate, decades-long operational choice. And it worked on Aerys, and it worked on Robert, and it worked on Cersei. Tyrion has been hand for a matter of weeks. And he is the first person in perhaps 40 years to look at that performance and think, I should test whether the man inside it can keep a secret. Which reframes the whole scene. Tyrion didn't outthink an old man. He outthought a professional who had beaten every other player in that castle for 4 decades, and he did it by taking the disguise seriously enough to run an experiment on it. 3 fair objections, and the last one is the one that actually bites. First, isn't this obvious? Give 3 people 3 different stories, see which one comes back. It's a standard method. Tyrion didn't invent it, and it isn't genius. True, and the method being standard is exactly the point. The intelligence isn't in the concept, it's in the tailoring. Knowing 3 men well enough, after weeks in a hostile capital, to build 3 different baits that each one specifically couldn't refuse. The trap is off the shelf, the bait is custom, and the bait is the hard part. Second, he got lucky. Pycelle might have kept quiet, and then Tyrion learns nothing and has burned 3 secrets for it. This one I'd push back on because of the 4th outcome. Silence would have told him the council can hold information, which for a hand arriving with no allies is genuinely useful. Though I'll be accurate about the cost rather than pretending it's 0. He floated a Greyjoy marriage and an Arryn marriage to 2 professional gossips in a court that runs on rumor. That's not free. It's cheap. 2 proposals that never happened don't damage him materially. But he did spend something, and I'd rather say so than oversell the design. Third, and this is the real one, the test only worked because Cersei confronted him. If she had simply acted on the Dorne information quietly, moved Myrcella, blocked the ship, gone to Tywin, Tyrion learns nothing at all, and the leak stays open. His experiment depended entirely on the temperament of a woman who wasn't even the subject of it. That is a genuine hole in the 4 outcomes, 4 wins claim, and I want to be straight about it, rather than defend the design past what it can carry. Case 4 isn't really nobody talked. It's nobody talked, or somebody talked, and Cersei chose to act silently, and those 2 produce identical evidence, while meaning opposite things. Tyrion cannot tell them apart. So the test doesn't have 4 clean outcomes. It has 3 clean ones, and 1 that's ambiguous. Here's the defense, and it's narrower than the original claim. Tyrion had read Cersei for 30 years. Her inability to sit on a grievance is the most reliable fact in his entire world. He wasn't gambling on her temper. He was using it as an instrument, the same way he used Pycelle's vanity and Littlefinger's greed. So it's not luck, but it is a 4th tailored bait that nobody counts, aimed at a 4th person nobody counts as a target. And that's a more interesting claim than the tidy version I opened this section defending. Now the thing I promised at the start, and flagged again in section 1, because this scene is Tyrion's high water mark, and the flaw that ends him is already sitting inside it. Go back to what he did with Littlefinger. He didn't just hand him a secret, he offered him Harrenhal. He opened a negotiation with the most transactional man in the realm, and he did it in order to run a test aimed at somebody else. Tyrion treated Littlefinger as an instrument in an experiment about Pycelle. But Littlefinger is never an instrument in anyone's experiment. He's noting who's running it, and what the running of it reveals about the man. And what did it reveal? That Tyrion is clever, that he suspects his own counsel, that he will manipulate rather than confront, and, critically, that he can be moved to offer castles in exchange for cooperation. Every one of those becomes usable later. This is the pattern that defines Tyrion across the whole series, and it's visible in miniature right here. He wins engagements brilliantly and loses the war around them, because he keeps assuming the people he outplays will accept having been outplayed. They don't, they remember. And the men he humiliates all come back. Pycelle is on the council at Tyrion's trial. Cersei orchestrates it. The victory in this scene is real, and it is precisely the kind of victory that helps assemble the room that convicts him, which is what makes it worth rewatching. It looks like a scene about a man being smarter than everyone around him. It's actually a scene about a man proving that being the cleverest person in the room and being safe in it are two completely different things, and not noticing that he's just proved it. So next time you watch it, don't watch for which man talks. Watch the 3 offers. Watch how differently each one is pitched, and how precisely each is aimed. That's the tell. Tyrion had already read all 3 men before he opened his mouth. But here's what I want from you, because I think it's genuinely arguable. Was offering Harrenhal to Littlefinger a mistake? Or was it Tyrion buying an ally he badly needed and paying a fair price for him? You can read it as a blunder that arms his worst enemy, or as the only competent move available to a hand with no friends in a city that hates him. I lean toward blunder, but I don't think it's clear-cut, and I'd like to be argued out of it. Tell me why I'm wrong.